Galaxy 473 in Confero. And we're back with the second part of our program. And this one is pure politics. And you're here with your brother Francis. The number to call is 536-2558. And we welcome your call. We provoke discussion. We express our views and opinion on any subject matter. This topic is about politics. We have a freedom in Grenada that you don't have in Iran. You don't have in the Soviet Union. But you don't have the Soviet Union again. Russia. You don't have it in China. A lot of countries in the world, you don't have the freedom that we have here in Grenada and the United States of America and other parts of Europe. On our program, we delve into pure politics. And today we're asking the question, did the trade unionists and the politicians deceive the public? Did they mislead the public? I think deceive might be too much a strong word. So the topic is mislead the public. But you're going to hear me a lot of time talking about deceive the public. I have a lot of contempt and a degree of anger for academia and professionals when they purposely and knowingly mislead the public. Sometimes you mislead the public, but you don't know. It's not malicious. But sometimes you knowingly deceive the public. The hot issue in Grenada now is the pension issue. And we have a new government from day one. It was political neophytes we put in charge to run the country. It's like you take some pilots just from training and put them on a jet, on a big plane full of passengers. If you're rich, you're rich. If you're rich, you're rich. The group of people we have running this country now, you expect destruction. You only have to pray and try to speak and lobby to absorb the shock. I believe they're going to put the country into free fall. They're going to tie up this country in the courts. And the only people you could blame is the voters. You have the power to choose. And you take your vote and you give a bunch of political neophytes. I myself never thought they would be that bad. They are disrespectful. They're arrogant. And they're greedy. Bernard Codd said, when they asked him one of the reasons the revolution failed, he said they lack institutional knowledge. They're arrogant and they're young. No, so we don't learn. Maurice Bishop was an orator of no mean quality. And at the time when Maurice Bishop came, the anti-imperialism rhetoric was raging. Young boys were reading about Karl Marx. We had the issue in Africa, apartheid. Rasta come on the scene. Uriah Buzz Butler kicking up. Black Power movement. So that is the environment in which we had this handsome, powerful, magnetic orator that was not a good manager, but he could have speak well. When Maurice Bishop introduced the Pension Disqualification Act, that disqualify everybody who employed with government after April 4th, 1983. Maurice Bishop might have been genuine. I don't blame him much. Because when they overthrew Eric Gary, they never dreamt that they would have been overthrown. They were so arrogant. They lacked institutional knowledge. They were so much possessed by the anti-imperialism rhetoric that they refused to ignore Ronald Reagan's saying, it is not nutmeg that's at stake, but the American national security. And they continued. They did not believe they would have failed. Kenneth Kaunda come in Grenada. And he accosted them with revolution. And maybe after a few hours in Grenada, he recognized the telltale sign that Maurice Bishop was in trouble. He said, he called on Grenadians. He said, you enemies in your footstool. He said, the revolution is like a serpent. It eats its children. At that time, Grenadian was singing, Eke speaking Spanish, and Reagan can understand. Could you believe? Grenada have about 6 armored cars. They don't have air force. The police and the army and the military then was about 900 people. But it was led by a powerful magnetic orator without much sense. A criminal singing AK speaking Spanish, and Reagan can understand. And if you touch Nicaragua, you touch Cuba, you touch Grenada. And even me believe, even me believe. I have my bracelet in my left hand. And even me believe in that bag of hogwash. Maurice Bishop introduced the Pension Disqualification Act and introduced NIS. At that time, there was a number of, even the church, the Catholic Church, was involved in the birth of NIS. Because people looking to get a pension scheme or a system to benefit the life of our people in old age. Gary introduced Provident Fund. Because we had the Civil Service Association. About 300-400 people in the civil service. The majority of people in the Caribbean was employed in agriculture and fishing. Nobody didn't care about them. If they're dead, they're dead. Nobody didn't care about it when you get old. You stay inside your house. When a child dead, the people bury them in a shoebox. Doctor didn't used to come. Priest didn't used to come. Your child dead, you bury your child in a shoebox. Near your house. You cry, you cook some sal beef. You drink a little rum, you cry for the, and more the mother crying for the child. Because the father might have among the children all about. That was the scenario. That was the situation. We had about 300 people involved in the public service. There was prim and proper. They was in a different social class. And the environment was conducive that even if they didn't get in much pay, but they had a pension to get. They were not able to publicly speak against the government. They could not attend a political meeting. They could not openly flaunt a political party. They were not able to travel if they didn't get a pass to say that they didn't owe the government tax. They couldn't own a rum shop. They couldn't own a boat, a fishing boat. They had this level of restriction from them, and they will get a little pension. We have to remember, as sugar no longer was king sugar, beet sugar take over. And the dynamics in the agriculture sector change. So there was not work for all these people we have. Then politicians now fighting to make work for people. Where politician go get work to give people, the politician pour like church mice themselves. So they overload the public service with people. They overload the public service with people. The people in the CSA, the Civil Service Association, didn't like that because it diluted the significance. People with big nose, thick lip, and kinky hair start to get job in the public service. So those fair-skinned people and those with long hair, and those with high heel shoe, and those that dress up, no, their significance was diluted. You have picky head people. In those days, in all this wig. So when I want a picky head woman, bright. Gary built 28 schools in 13 and a half years. Although it takes long for some children to get educated, some of them learn fast. A lot of things intellectuals don't recognize. Intellectuals don't know that the unintelligent people have a lot of intelligent people. It will shock them, you know. So when the Pension Disqualification Act was placed, that time a lot of people in the public service. And the question coming out, how government is going to maintain pension for all these people. Because the politician realized to win election, we have to employ more people. So more and more, Gary make nursing aid. When Gary make nursing aid, nurses vaccine. They believe Gary want to substitute nursing aid for nurses. So Gary could, when they strike now, they could get nursing aid to do nursing work. You see the level of short-sightedness when we are misled by our intellectuals, our trade unions, and our politicians. All the time, Gary trying to get jobs for young people. So he make nursing aid. The public works, the people who used to be in travel, you didn't need to get secondary school children to go and work travel, you know. You mad? Travel was looked down on. It was the ordinary man. Brembeku people. People with piece of food. People that can read and write. Old Bajan used to work in public works. And they had a public works truck. You could tell one of we dainty little women now who was dressed without clothes to climb up a public work truck. That is what used to transport our women before, the public work truck. That is the environment we come under. And Gary had Provident Fund. So Bishop used the Provident Fund money and tried to envelope everybody under NIS. The idea was good. Some of us who didn't like Bishop, we say you want to make non-person. Like in Russia. So if you was a medical doctor, but you fall out of grace in Russia, you could end up sweeping the street. Because you can't travel. And they would not have employed you as a medical doctor. But you have to survive, so you go and sweep the street. So some of us with very pessimistic mind and against the revolution, we say when Bishop passed the Pension Disqualification Act, he want to make non-person. Some of us who are very religious, liberation theology individuals, say it was a good thing because the church was involved. Maurice Bishop, in all fairness to him, I don't give him no blame, because he never believed the revolution would fail. When the revolution failed now, the next government returned the constitution, some aspect of the constitution. The aspect of the constitution dealing with the trial, they keep it still. Because they want to lock up bishop and them under their own law. You see the hypocrisy? They could have bring back the constitution and give bishop and them a fair trial. Bishop and them call it a kangaroo court, as if they used to give people fair trial. Because the people they send to prison, they never even give them a chance to defend themselves. But now they want a fair trial. But the individuals post-83 should afford them a fair trial. So we had the Pension Disqualification Act. We had the NIS. The NIS is the premier pension scheme in Grenada. The National Insurance Scheme is the premier pension scheme in the country. And it was designed to be the only pension scheme in Grenada. So the government would contribute a portion, and the workers would contribute a portion. A management board would be established to invest the money in the pension to help it to be sustainable. You cannot change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. When you start a cricket match, you don't change the rules. If you're playing all fours in Trinidad, 6 is more important than Jack, I think. But in Grenada, 7 checks for Jack. You cannot change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. So the people who were employed before April 4th, 1983 would have qualified to get the pension. And 26 and a half years or 30 years after, or when they reach 60 years, the hope is that pension scheme would die. Yes, scholar, welcome. Welcome, caller.
Yes,
Yes.
good afternoon once again.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I listening to you and certain things is going through my mind. You know, are we in the same space or same place as in the past before all these changes? It seems to me that we're in the same place because the economy is not growing. The question of pension to be paid to civil servants, I am convinced that this country could pay more than 10,000 persons a pension. Comfortable. All we have to do is to grow the economy. If the economy is growing, we won't actually speak this language. But let me ask you this question, sir. In as much as we're dealing with the Pension Disqualification Act, which would establish the NIS and a new pension, is the NIS legally constituted? Could it be challenged like that of the 58th Pension Act? I would like somebody to tell me, because in my mind, to me, the NIS is not legally constituted. It's not properly formed. And so, is it a possibility that that could be challenged? And if it end up just as the last case we had with respect to the 58th Act? Let me hear your take on that, sir.
Yes, I believe that anything could be challenged in Grenada. We had some bad legal advice. I've said before, all lawyers have not done justice to our country, particularly the Bar Association. Individual lawyers function. But when you have a bar association, particularly the bar that want to demand respect in the country, I believe they have been the worst professional group in the country, the most unproductive professional group, and they have not helped our country. What we have there is constitutional technicalities. What happened to this pension scheme is bad legal work and is technicalities. Because the challenge to the Pension Act is more a question of technicality. The unions for many years, you have to understand, most of the trade union leaders was pseudo-communists and students of socialism. So they agreed in principle with the NIS, and they did not want to challenge it in court. They were aware that there was a possibility we could win, but they did not see it in the interest of the country. At one stage, they set up the Lendo Commission, where the leaders of the trade union and the government participating in the Lendo Commission. But by then, government changed. So the trade union leaders was socialists. So they did not want to, and they supported, the trade union leaders supported the NIS. So they never wanted to challenge it in court. A new breed of trade union leaders come. They don't care about socialism, imperialism, nothing. It's a selfish, greedy bunch of individuals. And they decided to challenge that matter in the court. The court also, the lawyers also changed. The government, remember, all the governments before had a lot of trade union leaders with them. So the trade union leaders was able to lobby the government not to challenge it in court. You had Chester Humphrey. You had Clarice Charles. You had Vira McQueen. You had D. Borg. You had Michael Pierre. You had a whole set of them who was strong trade union leaders who deep down did not disagree with Maurice Bishop when they had the Pension Disqualification Act, and they supported the NIS. A new breed of trade union come that don't know our history. And this thing, so it's a question of poor legal advice. Now, when the previous government was there and brought the pension, the individual would get to 75% of his last check. Whereas the NIS pension is 2/3 of your insurable earnings. You know 70% of the children can't pass maths. So I fall in that bracket. So if you was working for $1,000, if your insurable earnings was $1,000, you will get 2/3 of that, or 33%. I can't remember if it's 2/3 or 33% from your insurable earnings. So the government sat down with the union and agreed that is not enough. But you have to remember, the government was pregnant with trade union leaders. They had a big sway on the government. So they convinced the politician, don't challenge it in court. Let us see how we could work out something in the best interest of everybody. So they decided to give 75% of your last pay. I think NIS might have worked it out the last year or something like that. So you have 75%, which is somewhat better than what you was getting from government and what you was getting from NIS. They had problems with the lump sum. And the lump sum is an advance payment, which you take a lower pension, so you get a loan without interest, an interest-free loan that would mature in 12 and a half years. Now you have the government decide they wouldn't challenge it in court, but they tell the union, let's talk. We have to sit down. Now you know the time pass. We can't challenge it in court again. So we're not tricking you. Let us sit down and come up with a comprehensive program. The union said, no talk. Because by that time, the union get themselves embedded, emerged, encapsulated, enveloped in NDC political rhetoric that we could pay the pension. This government, the NDC government, I don't know if Deacon Doe has sense or is stupid twice. Because the Prime Minister ought to know. He's a lawyer. He must know. And he used the legal fraternity to sell himself. He told the public that he's a man with deep pockets and contacts. When I test it in the rum shop, they say all them lawyers supported him. I say Peter David supported him. They say, well, just Peter David and them, the majority of lawyers supporting Deacon. So whether the lawyers knew or not, or whether that was Deacon's intention, the public interpreted Deacon's philosophy, or his statements, or his salvo, that he was a man with deep pockets and contacts. They interpreted that to mean that the legal fraternity was supporting Deacon. So he ought to know the magnitude of the pension issue. And I agree with you, Carla. Government could pay pension for 10,000 persons. But remember, government paying pension for 10,000 persons, and then you have the NIS, which government paying. And every time government broken, government lending NIS money. And you can't tell government don't lend NIS money because the trade union they have 2% on NIS board. And that's why I said the trade unionists and the politician deceive the public. The NIS board have 2 persons. I believe it's 2. Nominated by the trade union on the board. And the Public Service Commission have 2 persons nominated by the trade union on the board. In fact, the teachers union have a representative on the Public Service Board, the Public Service Commission, and the Public Workers Union have a representative on the Public Service Commission. So these people have to be bad-minded. So when the NIS do stupidness, the union know they have 2 members they join up doing stupidness. If the government get cash strapped today, they just go by NIS and lend NIS money? Because the union have 2 representatives, and by the time the minister and the union call, they're friendly with the government. And trade unions in Grenada generally support the NDC and the old GNP. Why they do that? Why they do that? Because the NDC always give the impression they're in a higher social class. And the unions believe they're in a higher social class too. So Gary Union, what the poor people union? We have to understand this thing. If we don't understand this issue, we like a recurring decimal. Derek Walcott come in Grenada, and he was mystified how the class structure work in Grenada is different from other countries. So the problem we are in now, where the government go and pass law in parliament, this thing going to affect us in the future. Not now. Because the law does not pertain to the people who working now. After. That's why I asked the question. Did our trade union leaders and our politicians deceive the public? And Deacon ought to know. Deacon is a lawyer. He claims he's a successful lawyer. He's a corporate lawyer. And since Deacon come in politics, I'm very suspicious of him. But I have a suspicious mind. Because no corporate lawyer, per se, leave a successful and go in politics. You see a criminal lawyer accustomed shaking, rubbing his shoulders with poor people. The old woman pick up $30,000 and give him to defend his son that the lawyer sure going in jail. He's saying, don't worry, mama, we go fight it. But when the woman started to cry on his shoulder, he does feel sympathetic. So criminal lawyers does get sympathetic to the ordinary man. It's like a priest. It's like a Catholic priest functioning in an area where a lot of poor people are. He stopped talking about abortion. Catholics supposed to be against abortion. They're pro-life. But if you put a Catholic priest in an area where you have a lot of poor people and you see a lot of suffering, and a woman had 19 children, he mightn't tell her about, but if she about, he say, you know, complaining. When your survival is threatened, your moral code of ethics deteriorate. Even the priests. We have to understand these things. Now, deacon don't care. You look at the quantity, the quantum, the impact of lies that this prime minister tells. He don't care. And the trade unions get themselves compromised. So they can speak with the passion. They can evoke the fervor and the passion that they used to evoke when the previous government did. Because they still see the previous government as chiefly representing the poor of the poor and the underdogs. You remember in Parliament, the head of the TUC, the man with the red cap, he was making statement that the government should secure housing for those they send and train. You send a man in university, you spend $200,000-$300,000 on him to get a master's degree, a bachelor's, postgraduate. And when you come back, he believed the government should provide housing for that man. This man's supposed to come back and make jobs. The government's supposed to be preoccupied with the less fortunate, the less educated, the people in the lower income strata. Government educate people to come back and help develop their people. But look at the language that come from the trade union. Sit down and study the language from the executive of the teachers union. The executive of the teachers union. Look at the utterance, the language, the pattern, the statement. And look at the level of productivity. Then you're going to understand what's going on. Two lawyers, Jimmy Bristol and Cadington Hood. Cadington Hood was a public officer. He was a permanent secretary. Cadington Hood have no reason to like NNP so much. Since Cadington Hood banned, he kind of banned against these NNP and gold pandemic. He knows it in the blood. But he was a public officer. So there are some truths that Cadington Hood must speak. He is concerned. He is concerned about this law. Bristol is concerned too. Why do you think Bristol concerned? Jimmy Bristol is the son of an ex-Bristol, I've forgotten him, who has always represented the Public Workers Union. And he was part of making the Constitution of Grenada, particularly the part where the public service is concerned. So Jimmy Bristol have a little public servant in his blood. These people tell Deacon, tarry slow, discuss the issue, seek consultation, you going on around hole. But the level of arrogance, the lack of institutional knowledge, and I don't know who sent Deacon. I believe he's evil, and we're letting evil grow. And it's going to cost us till you see Kawana say, you go feel it in your belly. The pension laws that are passed in Parliament yesterday, we go feel it in our belly. Not public officers alone. Yeah. People in the private sector too. When the government in problem, the government has to raise taxes. When they raise taxes and they shrink the economy, you have more unemployed people and you have more violence in the country. This thing is simple. The government, now we have 3 pension schemes in Grenada. You can't manage NIS 1. And if you start a pension scheme with 3% and 3%, you boss already. You don't have to be no economist. Told supposed to tell them not to do that. They go boss. We paying about 12.5% now for NIS. But when NIS started, it was 9%, I believe. 4 and 5. 4 from the employees and 5 from the government. Now NIS reached to 12.5%. You starting a pension scheme with 3%? That is administrative cost. It must boss. The workers going to lose their money. And then all these workers have to go under poor relief, seed program. Because after they work, the pension scheme going to bust. Financial institutions. If you have money saved in the bank, you get about 1% on the average increase. The bank charging you more to keep your money than what you're getting on interest. So all these fellas that playing bright in this country, they don't know that. Bank managers, financial institution managers, fellas working with tie, speaking English more than Paul Schoon. They don't know that can work. They don't know that can work. Why you turn economists and you don't know that? 3% and 3%, you boss. When you put this money in the bank, you're getting less than 1% interest. And the bank charging you for putting it there. The scheme boss. Deacon introduced a scheme that boss. Deacon think that is buying land and getting a percentage off for making up the papers. And instead of taking 1%, you're getting 2%. No, that's not it. Deacon believe that is accepting gift from General Lee. No, that is a pension scheme you put in place. And I listen, you put permanent secretary. None of them don't know about business. They are intellectual czars, academia. They don't know nothing about business. As soon as they reach you, you're going to hear well, first of all, they just hide the amount of money they're getting for a minute, for a meeting, to attend a meeting. This scheme that is set up there, I listen to the management board. The union have to be stupid twice. I mean, you could stupid once, but you mustn't stupid twice. to accept even the members on the board. Because they claim the union going to have a representative in consultation with the union. So that doesn't mean that the union could choose, The government could choose a representative and tell the union after the fact. And that is in consultation. As how the manner in which Mr. Blaze chose Eric Pierre to represent us in the Senate, the union in the Senate. The union don't make no noise. But the union didn't choose Eric Pierre. Mr. Blaze choose Eric Pierre in consultation with the union. He informed the union that Eric Pierre would represent the union. Now, 40-odd years after the union accept this ramgoat thing, this thing is ramgoat thing. No trade union leader that what the salt in this day should accept that. If you want to give the union a representative, the union have to choose the representative. You cannot get a representative in consultation with the union because consultation could be informing you after the fact. I consulting with a man, I want a daughter. I went in the house and I say, I fall in love with your daughter and we're going to marry next week. I know you might have some little problems, but don't worry. She'll be well taken after. I consult with him. That is what the union do there, And all these union leaders bright. All them have their master's degree, Walking around a stocky cock and tongue with one among the masters. That have to be ram-goat advice. Now, these individuals, you just listen to the individuals on the board. And you know they can't run nothing. This 3%, they know what this thing will bust. So they go just rip it off. And all these Grenadians who claim they are managers and intelligent stand up watching this thing and agreeing with that. So we have 3 pension schemes in Grenada that will function for maybe the next 30 years. A whole generation, You can't manage one. You have 3. And 5, 6 years from now, you're going to quote again. Then you make 4 then. Why is it we continue to do, if you're doing the same thing, you'll get the same result? Bernard could warn us. Youthful exuberance, lack of institutional knowledge, and arrogance. You have the same thing. This group don't have youthful experience because they're old. 47 years and 60 years is not young. It's a group of old people that they lack of institutional knowledge, arrogance, and greed. And we, the Grenadians, all of us, going to fill it in with belly. When you refuse to employ us, when you expand the prison and put your children in jail, you're living in gated communities who go break your peace. And you know you can't stop the flow of guns. Go and watch the crime in Jamaica and Trinidad and other countries in the Caribbean. The authorities that be is responsible for the increasing crime. We could drop crime in our country. We ask the question, did the government, did the politician, and the trade unionists deceive our people? I don't like the word deceive. It sounds strong. So I'm saying, did the trade unionists and the politician mislead our people? Because you could maliciously mislead your people. You could deliberately mislead your people. And because of ignoramus, you don't know better, you mislead your people. I don't think Maurice Bishop was malicious when he had the Pension Disqualification Act. We have to remember, most of the trade unionists around that time was socialist inclined, and they would have supported the NIS. And they all agree that after a period of time, the government public service pension system, natural attrition would take its place and it would disappear. And NIS would be the only pension system working in the country. People in the private sector could have taken out private pension system for itself. So I don't think there was malicious. But then we had the technicalities in law. And once you have lawyers and you're arguing, you don't want to right to win. A lot of people didn't commit crime and end up in jail. It's a question of how you articulate. So we have to ask this question because it's not right. It is not good. It is not just for us to deliberately mislead our people. Deacon Mitchell deliberately mislead Grenadians. See, I go pay, even though I got lend money I pay. He make money inside there. All we have to do is sit down and strengthen the NIS. We don't need 3 national pension schemes. As the caller said, when you don't grow your economy, how you gonna pay them? Our population has not grown. Our population is not sustainable. Our women are making children. And our men losing the testosterone faster than 38. By the time you're 38 years, 40, your testosterone levels start to drop. You don't have to believe me. Ask any doctor, any nurse. So your population that you have is not sustainable. You have 3 pension schemes. You have 3 pension schemes that government have to contribute to 2 and responsible for 1. We have to think, why is it we're doing that to our own people? Our ordinary people are getting chaff. Even if the politicians and some people make all the money in the world, Grenada is still the best place to live. Where you go? Where you go with all the money in the world? Our people have a lot of savings in the bank. All the financial institutions in Grenada are very liquid. And you lose money when you put money in the bank. Go on our stores. Ask Lennox Andrew how much interest that you're getting on savings in the bank. I believe it is the average saving in the bank is 1% or less interest. But the bank they're charging you to keep your money in the bank. So the interest you're getting cannot compensate for what they're charging you. So how pension scheme go rise? By the time 2 schemers take half the money with this new pension system that they have there on the internet, the pension scheme that Deacon is now, the Joe passed the law where it's not effective yet when it is gazetted, is going to bust. Grenadians going to lose their money. And by that time, Deacon is history. The worst politician that ever passed in this country. By that time, he go back doing corporate law. And we go fill it in with belly. This is our program today on pure politics. What we do, we provoke discussion. You have a chance to call on this program, and we want people to discuss the issue. We want the trade union leaders sit down, dig deep, Go and speak to some of the old trade union leaders. You have Chester Humphrey, you have Vyra McQueen, you have Clarice Charles, they're still around. I don't know about Miss Forsyth and Dubois. All of them are wrong still. They're wrong. You have old lawyers, you have Jimmy Bristol. Jimmy father represented the union for eons. And when he died, he passed it on to Jimmy. We have these people that we have Kajindan Hood. It's not to say they have any special liking for NNP and Kit Mitchell and Emmeline Pierre. So when they speak to you, they're not speaking from the political interests of another political party. Sit down and speak to them. And then you have the fake we have as a prime minister. But the other members are supposed to say, no, Dennis Cornwall, Miss Thomas, Andrew, two Andrew, one Toes and one Andrew. Both of all in this system long, you all know. Then what is the situation in Dominica and St. Vincent, St. Lucia? How the other Caribbean countries dealt with it? They have the same British system. The same system they had. Why is it so conflicting and difficult in Grenada? Barbados dealt with it. The other Caribbean countries dealt with the same issue. Why is it we having this problem in Grenada? Yes, we know the revolution came in, but they dealt with the NIS. It is unfortunate. It is sad that it seems that we passing laws to put our children at a disadvantage. Our young people today is not as interested in politics as children of yesteryear. I guess they're too damn happy. They come, they meet school, they have everything. So they're not interested in the politics of the country as the children of yesteryear. So one morning they're going to wake up and realize they don't have a pension scheme. Because the boss, they lose all the money. They have no money. And then the government, they have to go back to the government to go on the seed program. And if you don't grow the economy, which we should be doing, then where are you going to get money? How are you going to grow the economy if 70% of the children that exit school are not competitive on the job market? I mean, come on. The Chinese are here. While you're talking about you're striving for cashless society, the Chinese didn't want cash more than anybody else. The other foreign businessmen, they want US. Why are we so naive about as a people? Why is it our best intellectual minds are so slow, so sluggish? Why they behaving as commission agents for the multinational corporation? Why, instead of seeking the interests of the fellow man? When you have an issue of management, you don't want to hear my views. You want to hear the views of the managers of the cooperative credit unions, the managers of the bank, the managers of big firms, the economists, the chartered accountants. You want to hear what is the opinion and views they have. When you have a legal issue, you want to hear the views of the Bar Association. Because as individual lawyers, they might be there waiting, filling on the slip to see who will come to them to go to court. But when you have a bar, the association, you want to hear the opinion. You want to hear the opinion of TUC. Not this kind of pour me one beggy little statement Louis making parliament. Louis didn't even sing with the kind of passion that the Minister of Foreign Affairs spoke when he had the Samoa agreement. He didn't even sing as if he had deep revolutionary fervor. As if he wearing the red cap still. He didn't even sound so. So it means that we have an intellectual letdown. Our best brains in the country have absconded. And those you corner and forced to speak is mediocre. We have to continue to provoke discussion in every creek and corner in Grenada. Many of you may not know about the Pension Disqualification Act, the pension and NIS. But you have to remember the question we asked. Did the trade unionists and the politicians deceive the general public on the pension issue? We want to thank you very much for listening to another program of Pure Politics. We want to thank our technical operator too. And we also want to thank all those who contributed and listened to us. We encourage you. We are the new kid on the block. Subscribe to Studio Galaxy. Encourage your friends to subscribe. Like our program and share our program. And even if you don't agree with us, argue with us. Thank you very much.